Hello there, this is the quilt along for my crib quilt. Down below in the description box is where you can find all information for how much material you're going to need and also the cutting directions. Please consider subscribing to my channel and also comment down below. It really helps my YouTube channel when you comment. I'm going to show you how to piece this quilt. I'm going to show you how to quilt this quilt. I'm going to show you the quilt sandwich, and I'm going to show you how to do the binding. It is a complete tutorial all in one video. So these are all of the pieces cut out for the crib quilt. And as you can see, I have only used 3 different colours. So A, F and G are all the same colour. B is a different colour, and D, E and C are another different colour. I'm going to put everything to one side other than the A and the B sections. And I had to put the B down here because I didn't want it to get a bit mixed up with the A's. So the A is going to be like the darker pink and the B is going to be a lighter pink. I know it's shown as like a beige here, just ignore that. So there's 18 rows altogether of these A and B's. I'm going to count out how many of the pinks I need and how many of the other colour I need for each row. So you need 9 of each colour, adding up to the 18, obviously. So what we're going to do is get our rows organised so we have 9 of each colour. So I'm going to be starting with the dark pink, and then the light pink, and then the dark pink, and then the light pink. So just do that with all of the 4 rows so you have your units together, and then we can just sew really quicker rather than stopping and starting. Okay, so here are our 4 rows. So our first one starts with a dark, and then light, dark, light, dark, light. And then the next row starts with light, dark, and then dark, light, and then light, dark. So we have all of our rows together. So let's start with our first row. And this is where we're going to try to make sure that we get our 1/4 of an inch seam perfect, because we're going to have to line all of these up. So let's start. Okay, I'm not paid nor sponsored to create this video. So if you are a Baby Lock Soprano user, you will have stitches 29, 30 and 31. And these are all your piecing stitches. So 30 is going to be if you have that 1/4 of an inch foot with guide, and that will give you your 1/4 of an inch. If you don't have that, you'll have to use either 29 or 31. 31 is going to have the 1/4 of an inch to the left-hand side of your foot, and the 29 is going to be to the right-hand side of your regular foot. On the coaster tutorial, I showed you how to get your 1/4 of an inch seam. Just practice do a test run and make sure that your sewing machine will be sewing at a 1/4 of an inch, because it's important. And this needle is a 9014 sewing needle, and I've got white bobbin thread in the bottom of my bobbin, and in the top I have a Gooseman polyester white. So I'm going to put that stitch number 30 on. Okay. So what we want to do now is we're going to get each of our fabrics together. If you are sewing with a pattern, you're going to put right sides together. So both the patterns are going to be face down, and you're going to put them together and make sure that they are lined up. And you are going to sew. Sew all the way to the bottom of your piece. We're not going to press this just yet. We're going to open this out. We're going to take our next piece. We're going to line that up right sides together. Make sure this is right. If you want to pin, you can pin if you want. These are small units. You should be able to keep them close together. And then you're just going to sew that one. So go ahead and sew the rest of your units together. you're going to have something that looks like this. Now we need to press. So you can do a few things, or two things should I say. You can open it up so you have the seam through the centre like this. Some quilters will press to the darker side of the fabric, because if you press to the lighter side of the fabric, it's going to show through on the other side, if you can see a shadow there. So press to the darker side. It's totally up to you what you want to do. Obviously pressing all these seams down the middle is going to take much longer, but there will be less bulk if you do that too. Now this is all pressed, let's work on the other section. Just going to put this to one side, grab hold of your next units, and this one is going to start with the lighter pink, dark, light pink and dark. Sew the rest of your pieces together. Just going to do rows 1 through to 4, and then we can move on to the next stage. So now that you have all these rows done, all these threads that are just at the side here, go through and just clip them all off. So line the rows that we just did up and follow the diagram. So you need a darker pink at the top. Move these down a bit so you can see. Dark pink, light pink, dark pink, light pink. And also get the C's that you cut previously. I'm going to take the C strip and we're going to take our first row. I've actually done this wrong, so you need to go over there. So we start with this darker one at the top. I'm going to put the sash in, right sides together, and I'm going to sew it all the way down. So you are going to have a little bit excess at the bottom, don't worry about that, we'll cut that off in a second. You're going to push this out and you are going to press. Take one of your markings on your ruler, on your mat. I'm going to choose this 9 here, and I am going to cut the excess here off. You're going to take your next row, which starts with the lighter pink, and you're going to right sides together, and you're going to line this up at the top of the sashing, and you're going to sew that into place. Then open it out and press, and then sew the other 2 C's and the other 2 units. So this is what you should have. And the next thing we're going to work on is section E, and that is the top and the bottom border. So we're going to sew them on like we sewed everything else. You will have a little bit of overage at the end and you're going to cut that off. These are the 2 borders that we just did, and don't forget to press them. Now we're going to take sections D and we're going to sew them to the right and left of the crib quilt. You are going to have some excess, so you're going to cut that away. Don't forget to press your sections down. And now we're going to attach F, which will go on the left hand side and the right hand side. Don't forget to cut away any of the excess material. Don't forget to press. And now we can work on sections G. Section G is going to be a little bit shorter, but don't worry about that. If you pull, like not loads, not like this, but if you just pull it slightly as you're sewing, section G will match up perfectly when you get to the end. When you get your backing for this quilt, you're going to ask for the extra wide backing fabric. Now this has a bigger width than the regular width that you get off just a general yardage of fabric, which is generally around 40 inches in width. They are generally around 108 inches. Ask them when you go to the quilt store. My apologies, I can never do anything without a cat showing up. So basically I have got the backing layer at the back, and the batting layer is in the middle, and my quilt top is on top of that, and my paper weight or fabric weight is on top of that, which is my cat, by the way. I'm just being silly. And as you can see, I have an overhang of the batting. And this is so we have enough backing and batting by the end of it, because sometimes the different stretches of the fabric can stretch out from the top or from underneath. So you always want the backing and the batting to be slightly bigger and at least 2 inches or 3 inches, especially if this is your first quilt. And this is why I said about you get an extra wide batting as well. It's just going to be so much easier on you if you do that. The next thing I'm going to recommend is the quilting safety pins. They have a bend in them, so you can get in that quilt much easier when you want to pin the quilt sandwich. You shouldn't have to put too many safety pins in, but if you do need to add extra fabric weights, then you know, please do. So we're going to do something really painless when it comes to the quilting. We're going to use a ruler. This is one that's done by Creative Grids, Angela Walters. Get yourself some gloves. And if you are doing ruler work, you will need a ruler foot. I'm going to start on this centre sashing, and I'm going to drop my needle a little bit over, like 1/4 of an inch from this seam. Let's talk about the machine. So I'm going to take this off here. At the back of my Baby Like Soprano, I'm not paid nor sponsored to make this video, move this slider so it drops the feed dogs. And I've put my quilting table on that came with my machine. I'm going to set my machine with a straight stitch. I have a regular polyester in the top of my thread. I'm not using any expensive thread, and also some bobbin thread. There's also another setting you have to put on with your Baby Like Soprano. Go into your settings and look for free motion quilting, and then turn it on. I've put that needle down about 1/4 of an inch away from that seam, and I'm going to use a ruler next to this side of the foot, and I'm going to try and do a straight line the best I can. When using a ruler, don't use it at the top of the ruler because you have no control over it. You're going to use the center of the ruler, and you're going to go down about 2 inches and reposition. Go down 2 inches, reposition. So I'll show you me doing that. I'm hoping I don't have my hand in the way too much. So you would hold it like this. I'm probably going to have to hold it from the back of the machine here so you can see what I'm doing. And then you're going to readjust your ruler down and sew on a bit more. Adjust your ruler down and sew on a bit more. If you're new to this, don't worry about whether your lines are consistent or anything like that. You need to have an actual proper quilt to work on, to do your practice on. Otherwise, you're never ever going to do anything like this. So go ahead and do that. When I came to the end, I reversed over my stitches because I actually want to pull this off and work on the next side. Again, I came out about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to line my ruler up. And I'm going to start stitching all the way down. See if I can get a better shot on this side. What you're going to notice now from doing it from a placemat or a cushion is now you're getting the weight of the quilt. And the weight of the quilt is a little bit different because it's a lot more heavier, and it's going to take a little bit more effort to push it along. I'm purposely trying not to make these parallel because I don't want anybody to feel like they can't do something. You do something more with practice and you get better. And I want you to feel not intimidated by my video almost. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing again along these two sashing pieces. When you look at this, I don't want you to think, oh wow, or I could never do that. I want you to look at this and think, oh, I could do that. So now we've got our rectangle sections, and what I'm going to do is draw on this and show you exactly how we're going to free motion quilt this. So this is a rectangle here, and what we're going to do is this. We're going to do some curves. Keep the needle down, curve and curve. So it's going to look like this on the rectangle. I'm going to clear this out again and show you. So on a piece of paper or whatever you have handy, get a notebook or whatever, place your pen on your notebook, and without lifting the pen, you're not allowed to lift it, go like this and this and this and this. Doesn't have to be accurate, it really doesn't. We're just practicing at this stage. So until you're confident of having a rectangle and placing that, this is your sewing foot, you are not allowed to pick this pen up. There we go. So let's do that on the sewing machine. Okay, you ready? I'm going to do this block here. So I'm going to start at the back, and we are going to do our curve, come back in. Sometimes you will catch that thread, just move it out the way, and then you are going to curve to the other side. No, that's in your way. And then curve again. And then curve to that other side here. Like so. And I'm going to use this seam here to travel down. And then I'm going to do my next curve. I'm going to take it from another angle here. So curve in. You can stop. And there you go. And then travel down this seam. Now is a good time to check that you've got enough bobbin left in your bobbin case. And I also want to remind you not to stress out too much about how it looks. I want you to concentrate on the fact that you're actually doing something that you probably wouldn't do. If you did go ahead and do all this, I want you to pat yourself on the back right now, because you've done an awesome job. You actually did it. Now I'm going to put that ruler foot back on, and I am going to go from the center all the way down on this border, all the way around. The next thing I'm going to do is put at least 2 rows of lines on this border. And also you might want to just move these safety pins out a little bit and just clip them in place, and just watch that you don't have this folded over. That has happened to me I don't know how many times, so I'm just letting you know that can happen sometimes. And to prevent that, I would just honestly go ahead and put some pins right this side here just to hold everything into place. This is the line that I just did, and in order to get that line, I just lined up the center of this line here with this seam. So the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to probably line it up with this line here against my stitchings that I've just done, and go all the way around doing a second one. Once that is complete, you will then cut away the excess of the backing and batting section. Now that's all complete, let's concentrate on the binding. For the binding, you will have cut 2.5 inches in width by the width of the fabric, which is WOF, and you've done this 5 times. So now what we need to do is join all these pieces up together. You'll have one of the sections going across and one of the sections going up, and then you're going to draw a diagonal line going across. So basically we're going to take this over to the sewing machine and stitch it down, and then when we flip it, it's going to be attached on the bias. And there you go. You're going to do that to the rest of the binding, and don't forget you'll have to put your other foot back on and bring your feed dogs back up. And anybody who is a Baby Lock Soprano user, you're going to have to turn that free motion quilting setting off that I showed you before, otherwise your foot is going to be too raised up. Make sure when you're attaching them that you are doing it to the right side and you're not having something like this is on one side and that is on another. So just double check as you're going through. Take your scissors and cut away the bulk. You're going to take this over to the iron and you're going to fold it in half all the way down, and you're going to fold over that seam. Take your binding, and the part that has the seam, not the folded part, the seam, goes to the seam edge. Now we want at least a good 17 inches, just not sewn. And then you're going to start at about 14 inches from the end. You're going to take this over to the sewing machine and you're going to sew all the way down, and you're going to stop at the corner. Take it completely off the machine, and then you're going to take your binding and you're going to push it all the way to the top like so, and then you're going to flip it back down on itself just like that. And then you're going to sew about just a 1/16 of an inch from the top and then go all the way down. You don't want to start right at the very top. Start a little bit further down and then sew. You basically don't want to sew over this bulky bit here, because when you turn it over, you want it to look nice and pretty. So I've sewed all the way down this one. And again, we're going to get our binding pieces and we're going to flip it all the way up like that. And then flip it back down on itself. And once again, you will sew not quite at the top, because you can feel it. If you just feel where that diagonal line is, you want to be underneath that bulk. Do the next 2 corners exactly the same. I want you to stop at that last corner, and what we're going to do, we have these 2 sections that are left right now. I want you to fold it in half and find the center of the quilt. Once you have found your center, clip just so you found that marking. Cut that just a little bit past that marking and then unclip. I'm going to use this binding tool by Fons & Porter. I highly recommend it. I'm not paid or sponsored to create this video. So I have a 2.5 inch binding, so I'm going to line this up to the edge of my binding. Okay, with this left hand side here, we're going to place it on top of this other section underneath, and then we are going to take this part here, fold it over to where the 2.5 is, because my binding is cut 2.5 inches, and we are going to cut to that fold. Now take that binding strip that's facing on the left hand side, face it up, and then you're going to have this one facing to the left and right. Then you're going to put some clips in. Once you clips it in, you're going to have that pointing up, and then you're going to draw a line going across these two corners here. So you will have to take these clips out, but hold on to your section. Make sure it's going from corner to corner. Hold back onto it, clip it into place, and then sew that line. Then when you open it up, it takes all that guesswork out of how much binding you should have. So cut away the bulk. And then you can sew the rest of your binding into place. And now you're going to flip the binding to the back. So you push this part up and you fold that over to the back. And what I like to do here is get my wonder clips and start clipping. When you're hand binding this, you can then change anything as needed. And your corners should come out nicely as well. I would like to say thank you very much for watching my tutorial. Don't forget to comment down below. That really helps the algorithm when you do that for my channel. And also like. See you in the next one. Bye bye.